All right, so welcome back to lunch. We're gonna, continue today, and this is a great show after lunch on the second day. So thank you for sticking around. Got a great event still going the rest of this day. So next up, we've got industry expert. So Larry Filler, Senior Vice President and Practice Leader for Environics Analytics. So Larry, come on up. Hold on.
That better? Now I can hear myself. It's great to be here today. It's nice to see a number of our clients here and meet some new faces as well. So today I'm going to talk to you about how you can leverage additional data, third-party data, to help you with some of the customer experiences and that you're trying to develop. And, one of the things I want you to be thinking about, I've been listening to some of the sessions, there are a lot of questions and challenges that we all have. And when I'm going through the presentation, I think it's helpful to be thinking about some of the information that I'm providing and how this incremental data might help you solve problems or change some of the things that you're doing. So just to put that into sort of some context. I just briefly want to talk to you about our company shortly. Our mission is to make people's lives better and our clients more successful through transformative data and analytics. We've been doing this since 2003, really founded in geodemographics. In 2020, we were purchased by Bell. Most people actually don't know that intentionally, but it's really allowed us to scale our business. They funded it, and they are very supportive. We work with Rogers, we work with TELUS, we work with all their competitors. They really just want us to be able to provide the Canadian market with the best data possible. And we have just over 250 employees. They all fit on that stage, not 250,000. We do a few different things. One of the main things that we're known for is our Prism segmentation system, which actually comes from a number of the data sets that you see, actionable data. We take large sample surveys, we normalize and weight that data, and then create estimates down to a 6-digit postal code. So every postal code will have an estimate for variables. That could be income, it could be ethnicity, it could be how many chocolate bars you eat. Wide range of information depending on what you're looking for. They're all privacy compliant because they're modeled, and it's all based on anonymized data that's brought down to the 6-digit postal code. So when you think about the digital world and cookies and things like that going away, we do believe that postal codes are kind of going to come back as a way of targeting people, and a way a lot of our data is in the DSPs, so you can actually do a lot of your media buys and connect with people through those means. We then have a large advanced analytics team. Part of the people use our data in our software called Envision, but a lot of people leverage us for our custom analytics, our segmentation, our predictive modeling, and a lot of persona work that we do. Now, I know a lot of you in the room come from large organizations, banks, financial institutions. I sometimes like to call us bench strength. You all have your own skills and people internally that can do this type of work. But really, we like to partner with the business people and the analytics team and build those tools in conjunction with them. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've spent a lot of time, a little old school. So when I think about the direct marketing world, it was very easy to target people. In the digital world, it's more and more difficult. So we have been working very closely with a lot of DSPs and other media providers to make sure that our data can be actionable. So some of the data you'll see can be purchased through DSPs and the people you're buying media from. And then our most recent is what we call the EA Vault data collaboration. When I talk about clean rooms, maybe a show of hands, how many people have heard of clean rooms? Okay, so clean rooms are a privacy-protected way of two organizations blending data together with prearranged rules that would give insight to both organizations. So whether you're thinking about a strategic partnership or an alliance, and there's data that you'd really like to have, but you're in banking, but you want to actually know what is this person, what are their sports habits, what things do they play. Maybe they'd work with a fitness club and try to understand those things. They'd have an arrangement on what data would be shared, who are joint customers, who aren't, the different ways of sharing and blending data together that can be very valuable. Mergers and acquisitions is another reason why people may do that. When you start thinking about media, okay, and blending data together with a publisher, and you actually want to get insight back on who was exposed to your ad, and did that person exposed to your ad actually buy your product or do what you wanted them to do, the clean room can facilitate those things. So it's an emerging area. It's an area that we take quite seriously because we've been involved in data intensively. And there are a lot of clean rooms out there, but not all clean rooms are the same. So I just wanted to make people aware of that, those things. And really, at the end of the day, like I said, when I started working, we used to call it direct marketing, and it turned into CRM. Now things like customer experience and other things have come to the forefront. Some of those things have actually now have meanings as software as opposed to what they really stand for. And technology has helped. But really, when you think about all the problems we're trying to solve, how can data and information help you, give you an insight? How do you build a strategy and a plan? And then really important, people forget this, especially in the fast-paced digital world, how do we activate and measure and set those campaigns up so we can measure those things properly? Okay, so remembering all those things is really important. So listen, there are challenging times. I think times are always challenging. It wouldn't be fun. But with challenging times, there's a lot of opportunities. This was just in last week's paper. I don't know if anyone saw you, but the Financial Post. And it talked about how AI use has grown over the last 3 or 4 years, but that consumers are actually looking for more human connection with their bank. And I think that's true everywhere. This is a Meridian research study. I put the reference there if you want to go and check it out. But it's really sort of interesting. Think about our own behavior. And I've heard it talked multiple times today. I just want to see the eyeballs, or I just want to talk to someone in person to answer my question. So the pendulum here, tech, I like to call it tech versus touch. Technology is an incredible enabler. It allows us to do things more effectively. But I sometimes think about it as like this new shiny tool that everyone's trying to think about how to use it. And right now, AI is that new shiny tool. And we really need to think about how we put that human component back into it. And this pendulum shifts back and forth. And as long as I've been around, like I said before, it was CRM. I used to call it customer relationship management. Now it's a software. Before it was how you actually interacted with your customers and what you did. Now everyone refers to it as a software. So really thinking about that and putting it into context. So first and third party data. Not all customer profiles are the same. Anyone seen these two people before? I know King Charles. My kids had to tell me who Ozzy Osbourne was. But if you looked at their profile, from a demographic standpoint, they're both males. They were both born in 1948, raised in the UK, married twice, enormous residence, and they're wealthy and famous. But would you want to treat these two people the same way? Do we think they have the same interests? How do you really dig deeper? I was hungry. It's after dessert. You probably don't need this now. But really, how do we get into the layers of data and information that most of your organizations have to try and drive better insight? This is another example. We have our Prism segmentation system. We've taken the Canadian population. Every postal code, residential postal code, is assigned to a Prism segment, and there are 67 of them, mainly based on socio-demographic information. These are our two top segments, if 1 and 2 being the highest. If you look at them, they look very similar. They mainly speak English, low diversity, they're very wealthy, tend to be older, university educated, white collar. They live in their own homes and they own their homes. But if you actually look at their attitudes, you see quite different things emerging. Okay? The A-listers are much more into personal creativity. They want to innovate. They're probably the entrepreneurs of the world. The wealthy and wise, maybe they did that before, but now they're a little bit more conservative values. They just want something that's steady and stable. The A-listers reject inequality. They're into social justice. They want to change the world. They want to make the world a better place. The wealthy and wise, not that they're opposed to that, but they're not wanting to rock the boat much. And they both care about their legacy. They both want to be remembered for what they contributed. They want to leave the world a better place. They want their kids and family to be taken care of. So when you're communicating with them, you have to think differently about it. What would be the script? What would be the message? What would be the tone and manner? Not just thinking of them as somebody with a lot of money, which they both have a lot of money and are wealthy. So I want to dig a little deeper into this. This is a case study that I've shared before, but it resonates with me. We're looking at Ontario. So for those of you from out of town, we're in the province of Ontario. Our RSPs and TFSAs, we did an analysis using two of our databases that we have, one being Prism, the other being Wealthscapes. And what's important to remember is that you all have tremendous first-party data. First-party data is extremely important, but it tends to be very deep but narrow. Okay, you know a lot about their financial service history, but you may only know how they interact with you. You don't know their full relationship with banks and how they spend money or financial service. You also don't know much outside of their banking relationship. So this third-party data can be very helpful and valuable to you. So if we take your data, blend it together with the third-party data to help give you better insights and to drive actions and information. And just down at the bottom are different opportunities that present themselves, evaluating market share and product opportunity, improving growth and retention, understanding your customers better, optimizing digital targeting, more efficient models, optimizing distribution networks. Where do you put your branches? Where do you put your brokers, advisors? Where should they be so they're close or adjacent to where your best prospects and customers are? And I shaded the bottom CX, but actually having been at this conference and listening, you can almost, CX probably could touch all of these bars. So Wealthscapes is a product that we have that basically gives you a balance sheet right down to a DA level. A DA is about 500 households, okay? And it gives you various asset and debt classes of every Canadian household. So we use this information to actually identify the incidence and the dollar value of TFSAs and RRSPs in the analysis. But this is a very valuable database. And for those of you who aren't our clients, happy to talk, but many of you are clients of EA. And the more I talk to people, your organizations are so big, many of you don't even know that you have access to some of this data. So don't be afraid to come by, stop by the booth, or get in touch with us afterwards to make sure that we can put you in touch with the right person at your organization. And then we also use Prism, which I talked about a little earlier. If you want to scan there, you can put your postal code in. It will tell you what Prism cluster you're in. It won't work in Denver, sorry, but it works in Canada. Okay, so when we took the TFSA and RSP data and merged it together with Prism, someone earlier was talking about thousands of personas or segments. We also believe that's way too many. We also believe that 67 is too many. But we use 67 to try and help draw out the insights, and then we segment our segments based on the customer data or what we're trying to really understand. So we identified 38% of the Ontario households that represented 45% of the TFSAs and 55% of the RRSPs. We kind of call that our target. Arbitrary, a little bit of nuance in there, a little bit of art and science with where you make the cutoff. And that would be done in conjunction with a client or just based on what our analysts feel is best. And then we create what we call these target groups, where we cluster the clusters and come up with new names for them. We can do that in conjunction with clients. And you can see these groups and representing all of Ontario, but those that over and under index. And to take it a little further, this organization was interested in targeting younger people. So we took the young and up and coming and compared them to the young urbanite segment. And if you look at them, they're definitely similar age, okay, similar household size. The young and up and coming tends to be a more diverse audience, and education levels are different, and they definitely have different financial holdings. And you can dig deeper. You can look at their wealth metrics. You may know some of this, but in some cases you're not going to know some of this information in terms of their household income, net worth, how much they've contributed to an RSP or their retirement savings, their TFSA. The big difference here are their mortgages. If you look at the young and up and coming, the number that you see on the left-hand column is the average for the Ontario population. So you can see 408 way over indexed in terms of the average of being 356. And the young urbanites are all under indexed for most of their metrics. You can get into age of the maintainer, different information about mother tongue, employment information. But where it starts getting interesting, especially from a customer experience, is once again looking at their psychographics. Okay? Their enthusiasm for technology, their adaptability and complexity. You see one group that really wants to embrace technology. They're interested in advertising. Another group, way more focused on price. They don't trust big companies. They're much more, they like the idea of smaller companies. So even if you are a big company, how do you communicate to them like a small company would? Social media habits. Once again, this aligns, but it's all coming from third-party data. So it's not saying this is the same for everybody, but it's giving you a lot of insight into, should I be advertising or doing things on LinkedIn? Should I be actually getting a LinkedIn page for them to maybe interact with them? That may work for the young urbanites. It's not going to be so great for the young and up and coming, the reverse for that. Instagram and other media's podcasts. You know, maybe that's a good channel to engage and create experiences for that young and up and coming group. Why they're using social media, what are their motivations for it? The right-hand side doesn't use it much at all, but they actually under-index for using it for work. It probably makes sense when you think about their occupations, but the left-hand, the young and up and comings are really using it almost for everything. So if you want to find them, that's really where they are. Not that they're not looking for a personal connection. If you look at the article that I shared earlier, all the Gen Zs to Gen Ys, they all were looking for personal touch. But this is a great way to engage them and find them and get them interested or educate them about your product. So it's just trying to give you a sense of the layers and how the different information could be leveraged and how you might use that in your own organization. Another hot topic, especially with all the immigration to Canada, are multicultural and newcomers. There's a lot of publicly available data on this. If we were to take a look at the 12 months starting at March 31st, 2024, the Indian population that has come to Canada, the majority of them actually fall into these 4 different Prism segments. So we have a product called New to Canada that we work with the IRCC, and we're actually able to identify by country of origin where they end up residing. And you can try and treat them all the same, or you can take the nuance of where they actually move to and treat them slightly differently. It might resonate with them. You can see a multi-ethnic suburbia, South Asian enclaves, apartment living, affluence to start. So that last group came over with a lot of money already. They're already living a bit of the dream. These other 2 middle groups are sort of just getting their feet started in Canada. If we think about, the whole notion of ethnic marketing, we have to go beyond just the new people to Canada. And I like this slide because it talks about the newcomers. So if you look at that first row, It's talking about temporary residents, 1.6 million, another 500,000 permanent residents. But then you have recent immigrants. So who are the people that have come in the last 5 years? They've been here for a while. They've settled. What about all immigrants? I was born in the U.S. Don't hold it against me. I'm an immigrant the rest of my life. Okay. My kids, however, are part of the first and second generation. So U.S. and Canada, the cultures aren't that much different. But if I think about my wife, whose parents came here from Hungary, there are a lot of differences coming from her background than where I came from, and really understanding what that diaspora looks like. We then have visible minorities. We have people that speak our official language, one of our official languages, or both, or neither. And then you have various religious affiliations. So thinking about that data and trying to put it into context is really, really important in terms of trying to help create messages, treat people differently, talk to them differently, make them show that as an organization, can be more personable with them and be more connected with them. I love these slides if you like maps. Focus less on getting too detailed on each, but this is a map of Toronto for those who don't know. Okay, and look at the orange in this map. That's sort of the heat color, for lack of a better word. These are temporary residents from India. These are permanent residents from India. These are people from India that have come in the last 5 years, from the last census. These are all immigrants from India. And these are all visible minorities from South Asia. It's different. If you're thinking about a branch network, you're thinking about where you're communicating, things will change. Looking at that, understanding the detail, being able to visualize it can be helpful. Some people can do it without the visualization, but the visualization can make it really important. So looking at how patterns have changed, looking at little nuances can really make a big difference, especially many of you coming from the banks with your branch networks. Is each branch going to have the same material in it? Does each branch need the same service? If you're an insurance company, where are you going to put your agents? How are you going to treat people differently and using this data to its advantage? So the last thing I want to just touch on quickly is first-party data, third-party data. I think those are examples just to give you a sense. But the next is partner collaboration. Okay. This just came from a Forbes article in March. It's kind of like data is the new gold, but collaboration is the new currency of progress. It's great to have your own data, but what if you could combine your first-party data with somebody else's first-party data in a privacy-compliant way that would give you insights? You might be able to monetize it with the organization, you might not, but to be able to make better decisions for those things you really want to know. I'm going to skip over this. We've recently, though, partnered with a company called LiveRamp that creates IDs that allows you to do things in a seamless way where you can match anonymized IDs. We can talk about that if anyone's interested. But at the end of the day, this can really be helpful with things like marketing partnerships, sponsorships. I think about Scotiabank and MLSE. You know, they own the Scotiabank Center. Was that a good decision? Someone wants to sponsor a concert series. Okay, look at who went to that festival last year. Are my customers there? Are they not? Could I blend some of that data together to give me insight? Mergers and acquisitions. This can be done to help you evaluate a merger. Both parties agree. It's done in a privacy way, understanding the overall impact. Media activation. Okay. If you start thinking about Globe and Mail subscribers and your own customer base, and you can merge that data together and create an anonymized ID that would actually understand, and you can start placing ads or messages to people that are already your customers that you want to treat differently, and you're looking after that affluent segment, it can be really helpful. Not only is it helpful for targeting, but if you actually know that someone clicked on that ad, you can tie that back to your system afterwards through that same collaboration effort to say who bought, who was exposed, who wasn't exposed. So it can be really helpful terms of those things. And there's a lot of media and commerce opportunities as well. This is kind of my favorite slide because I'm a Disney fan. I'm not really, but the ears and everything just get me excited. But if you think about Disney and their organization, they own everything within the ears. Okay? I would argue they own everything within the ears, but they probably don't talk to each other. Not too dissimilar from silos within a bank or insurance companies or different groups. So they got people that go to the parks. They got people that go on Disney cruises. They have people that have the Disney Channel. They have people that go direct online to buy their sweatshirts, t-shirts, clothing, ears, whatever they want. Just putting that together probably would be a bit of a challenge, but being able to collaborate there. But Disney goes well beyond there. How many people go to AMC movie theater or to Cineplex Odeon and see a movie? How many people go to a YouTube channel and maybe Google something about Disney to watch something on the show? How many people go to Target to buy their Disney clothing for their kids? So think about the opportunities you have within your own organization where you think your customers might be going, where there might be something mutually beneficial to actually understanding the overlap between those two organizations. Are they your best customers? Are they people you're trying to grow? Are they prospects that are really excited about buying some of these products and services from this organization? And you have other people who buy the same products and services from that organization. What would it take for you to switch them over to yours? So in this world where technology is built, there are lots of different ways to enable us to help us to do these things. So a couple closing thoughts. I heard yesterday a lot about customer satisfaction and net promoter score, so I just wanted to tie some of this back into that. I don't know if people are doing this or not, so I apologize if this is like everybody is already doing this, but can you tie your results to a product like Prism to understand how the 67 segments are different? Does your sample of the people that you're actually doing the surveys on represent the Canadian population? Does it represent your customer base? Okay, and finally, when you look at the responses, are certain responses where there's positive or negative impact or high scores correlate to certain segments? And understanding those good segments, why are they good? The ones you're not doing so well, is it the way you're treating them? Is it just happenstance? What is it to help you dig a little deeper? Okay. And then last, I've been in the analytics world for a long time, and it always amazes me sometimes, the silos. Is there a correlation between those CSAT scores and the metrics that you care most about? Do you see growth in a client that said they love you? Do you see decline in a client that says they hate you? Is the retention the same? We're not. I'm not saying that the scores don't matter, but if you link the two together, it may give you a different output, and it may help you focus in on what is most important and who you really want to change. And last, some parting thoughts. Better data, better insights will help with better decisions. I've heard it a number of times today, you need an enterprise strategy, you need buy-in from the top to really help you get there. Data hoarding is out. Think about collaborating. Think about who you might want to share with. Think about starting those discussions. I didn't mention privacy, but the bottom of our slide is our privacy by design designation. We're one of two in the world that has it. Privacy is essential. If this is going to work, you need consumer trust. Consumers expect it. And finally, you got to measure. Knowing what works really matters. And that's extremely important. You always have to be thinking about how am I going to measure it and show the lift and the benefit. The time is now. So thank you all for your time today, and it's been a pleasure. You good?
Yep. Thank you very much. Thanks, Larry. Gave us a lot to think about for sure, and there's a lot of great data that your organization can provide.